Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English. Hi and welcome to episode 110 of the English with Kirsty podcast. And today we're going to talk about language that you shouldn't copy from native speakers, because so often people say, oh, I want to speak like a native speaker, which is fine, but obviously not every native speaker speaks the language well. So I'm not talking about mistakes here, because nobody wants to copy mistakes. It's a mistake, it's wrong. So yeah, nobody would want to copy that. But I'm really talking about things that native speakers sometimes say and do that don't make them sound good, or don't help people to understand what they mean, or just things that would be better avoided. And I'm not being mean to these people. Often it's because people lack confidence that they say these things. So I'm really just highlighting them because I don't want learners to think, oh yeah, that sounds really authentic, that sounds like a native speaker, when really it's something that the native speaker probably shouldn't be doing anyway. So I'm just going to look at some examples of these things and then you'll understand what I mean better. So language not to copy from native speakers. So we've got 10 things here and I'm going to go through them quickly and explain why it doesn't sound so good if you say these things even though native speakers say them. Okay, number one is anything, it's using the word stupid, like, oh, you probably think I'm stupid, but, or this is probably a stupid question, but if you want to ask the question, then ask the question. Like, I saw somebody do it in a shop the other day. Oh, this is probably a really stupid question, but do you sell? And it wasn't like going into the supermarket asking if they can buy a car or something. It was a reasonable question. So you don't need to introduce your questions like that. Just say, oh, hi, do you sell whatever it is, or I can't find any whatever, I was wondering if you sell them. You don't need to say, oh, I'm stupid, or it's stupid, or if you're asking a question in a meeting, if it's a reasonable question to you, either ask it in the meeting, or if you think you'd rather ask somebody one-to-one, you can do it after the meeting. But don't say, oh, you probably think I'm stupid, or this is a stupid question, because nobody's going to say, yep, actually, I think you are really stupid. So the idea is that the person says, no, of course I don't think you're stupid, and it's just like unnecessary. So if you have a question, ask the question. And that's kind of the same. 1 and 2. Well, 1 is, it's probably a stupid question, but and 2 was, you probably think I'm stupid, because people aren't going to say, yep, you are. So don't put yourself down like that. You know, if you want to know something, it's better to want to know something than to sit there not knowing it and wondering. So questions are good. Number 3 is when you ask people, when you're talking to people about what you do, what your job is, and people just say, oh, I'm just so don't, it's not good to add this just in here, because okay, I'm an admin assistant, I'm I don't know, refuse collector. It doesn't matter what you do. You don't have to be the head of a company to feel okay or to feel proud of what you do. So don't add just in your job title, because it makes it sound like, oh, I'm not very important, I'm just, and everybody's important. So you don't need to add this extra word in to say I'm just whatever. Number 4, something that English people are notorious for is apologizing when there's nothing to apologize for. So I've seen people walking along the street and somebody walks into them and the person who got walked into apologized. Like, no. Somebody walks into you, it's I don't know, you can take this too far, but what I mean is there is a stereotype about English politeness, and it's good to be polite. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but you know, over apologizing for things that aren't your fault are not really necessary. So you don't need to do it. Like if you're asking somebody to do something that they already, you know, that's their job, you can say, oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you if you can see they're busy, or if you're not sure if they're busy, but don't apologize for asking people to do the things that they need to be doing anyway, because, you know, that's their job. So you may hear English people, particularly British English people, because that's what they generally talk about, that's what I know, I live in the UK. If you hear British English people apologising too much. You probably won't be able to change them, and you probably shouldn't try, but you don't need to copy them, because it's just kind of pointless. doesn't mean anything. Yeah, if you hurt somebody, if you offend somebody, of course you should say sorry. I'm not saying we should never say sorry, but I think sometimes it gets to the point where we say sorry just as a natural reaction, and that's not so good, because then it detracts from when you're really sorry about something. Number 5 is a bit of a complicated one, but I'm going to include it anyway and try to explain what I mean. So we use the words I think in 2 different ways. So it can either be I think for an opinion that you have, like I think we should take care of stray dogs and cats on the streets. You know, that's my opinion. You might have a different one, but this is my opinion. I think we should do that. And then we also use I think to show when we're not sure about something. So if I think the boss is on holiday next week, you're not sure. If you are sure, you can just say, oh, she or he is on holiday next week. That's fine. Sometimes people use I think to kind of soften facts that they know are true, and we don't need to do this. If you know a product has been discontinued, this product has been discontinued, not I think it has, when you know for sure. And that's something that I notice people doing in meetings when they don't want to be controversial perhaps, but they say I think, which is not an opinion. It's trying to say I'm not sure if this fact is true. And if you know that a fact is true, then you can just state it as a fact. Oh, we agreed last week that, or somebody said that. That's fine. You don't need to say I think if you know something is true. And I notice people do this to try and soften it. Oh, I'm not so sure of what I'm saying, but I think this is right. I mean, it's definitely good to do that when you aren't sure, because otherwise you're stating facts when they're not facts. But if you know something, then it's not, oh, I think this is right. Then just, have the courage of your convictions and you know it's right. Number 6, something that people do a lot, and everybody has words that they say a lot, and you obviously don't know that you're doing that because you don't listen to yourself. I have a tendency to say right a lot when I'm presenting information. Right, so we're going to do this now, and it's annoying. It annoys myself when I heard myself giving a presentation. But here I'm talking about the words like and kind of. You can use both of them and it's okay, but when people use them too much, it sounds a bit annoying. So everything in moderation. Yeah, it's fine to say like it's like this, it's not the same, but it's similar. Kind of, it is okay too, but just don't, particularly when you're speaking, try not to use them too much, because although a lot of native speakers do it, it can get a bit annoying for the person listening to you. Number 7 is something else that British English people do sometimes, particularly women, not always, but generally it's more women than men. It's not taking compliments. If somebody says a nice thing to you, don't just say thank you. Like, oh, that's a nice dress. Then you can just say, oh, thank you. Not, oh, I've had it ages. I bought it in a charity shop. It was really cheap and it's coming away at the bottom and there's a stain on it. And, people don't go that far. But it's, basically if somebody says something nice to you, like, oh, that was a really good piece of work. Oh, I didn't really do anything. It was all right. No, just say thank you. If somebody thinks you've done well in something and they want to tell you that, then that's good. Just appreciate that. Somebody said something nice to you, then just say thank you. And I don't really notice a lot of my students not doing this. It's just that if they're around British English people too long, they may pick up this habit. And I don't think it's a good habit, because if somebody wants to compliment you and say something good about you, then accept that, enjoy that, and don't feel that you have to put yourself down and say, oh, yeah, I didn't do very much, or it's not really that good, or no, just be happy about it and enjoy it. Number 8 is 2 things together. They're actually the opposite of each other, but I included them together because it makes sense to do so. So the famous English understating, which can really confuse people. Sometimes people say things like, oh, it's okay, when they mean, yeah, it's good, it's fine. But if you hear it's okay, you think, oh, it's only okay, I obviously could have done better. how can I improve it? Whereas the English person went, yeah, it's fine, it's good. And when you ask people how they are, oh, I'm not too bad, actually means they're okay. But for anyone hearing that, you think, oh, not too bad means, oh, yeah, things are fine. But anyone hearing that can think, oh, not too bad means they're quite bad. Something must be wrong. So this understating is a problem, because it confuses people. So yeah, if something is good, then it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. But if you go to the other extreme, then you get to the point where everything is amazing, and everything can't be amazing, because then it wouldn't stand out. Amazing is quite a strong word. That's amazing. And that's fine for things that really are amazing. But if everything's amazing, then nothing's amazing, because everything is really, really, really good. So it's a hard balance to get between not understating everything and saying, yeah, it's fine, when it's actually quite good, and not finding everything really amazing, because when something really amazing does come up, you've got nowhere to go to set it apart from all the other things that you said were really amazing. Number 9, something that happens in meetings sometimes is when people say, oh, they give an explanation, and then they say, oh yeah, I probably haven't explained that very well. And again, it's putting themselves down. And don't put yourself down. I mean, there are trolls and people in the internet and in the world who will put you down, and that's not cool. But there are other people to do that. You don't need to do it yourself. So yeah, I mean, I often ask, do you understand? Or particularly as a teacher, because I want to make sure that people have understood what I said before I move on to the next thing. And it's okay to check that people have understood what you explained, but don't say, oh yeah, I probably didn't do that very well, probably didn't explain, did I? If people have questions, they can ask you if they didn't understand something, or as I said, you can check that they understood, but just, yeah, don't be mean to yourself. And the last one, I just put this in because it's kind of a funny story, but don't say no thank you when you mean yes please, because people think it's polite to say, oh no, I don't want anything to eat, or I don't want anything to drink. And sometimes they think that the other person's going to ask them again, are you sure you wouldn't like another one? Or are you sure you wouldn't like a cake or something? So that there's 2 parts to this. There's A, don't say no thank you when you mean yes please, and B, don't be annoying. Like if somebody asks you, do you want any help, and you say no, then that's fine. Don't keep asking them, are you sure you don't want any help? I used to notice that a lot when I was out with my guide dog. People would come and ask if you wanted help. I didn't. I said, no, thank you. And then we're like, are you sure? Should I do this? No, thank you. I was like, no, thank you means no, thank you. Let's be clear about that. So the 2 things there are, don't say no, thank you if you really would like a piece of chocolate cake. It's not impolite to say yes, please, if somebody's offering you one. And the other thing is, don't say, oh, if it's not too much trouble. Well, making something like a cup of coffee is rarely too much trouble. So that's kind of a redundant phrase. If somebody's asked you if you want a cup of coffee, then it's, yes, please, no, thank you. You don't need to say if it's not too much trouble, because that just sounds like, how difficult is it to make a cup of coffee? We don't need to use those kind of phrases. And also, if you ask somebody something and they say no, maybe you need to clarify that if you've got another question, but don't keep asking the same question again and again, because that again is kind of annoying. So these things here have nothing really to do with language. It's more about communication, like, value yourself and don't put yourself down in meetings, even if you see other people doing it to themselves. And as I say, I don't know a lot of people that do that. The only time I really see it with my learners is saying things like, oh, my English isn't very good. When English people say that their German isn't very good, they mean their German is barely past the couple of words in one sentence stage. So you don't need to keep saying, oh, my English isn't very good. For a start, people will see how good your English is by listening to you and hearing you. They don't need you to tell them it's not very good. And I know this because I've done it before, particularly with my Turkish, because I didn't feel confident about it. And then I would say, oh yeah, it's not very good. I know it's not very good. And that's how I introduce myself sometimes. I'm learning Turkish, but my Turkish isn't very good. I mean, what kind of introduction is that? It's not good. So I'm saying that as somebody who has done this in the past and who has learned from that. And even if I still believe it, I don't need to tell everyone, because it's not good, but I'm working on it, and that's a good thing. The more I work on something, the better it will get. So just try to avoid some of these really negative phrases about yourself, because you don't need to be like that, and it's better to try and grow in confidence, to feel more confident about your speaking skills than to tell everybody else how bad they are. So those are the 10 things. I don't know if you recognized any of these things from listening to them, but they are things that I've heard mainly native speakers doing, and I think it would be better if they didn't, so therefore I think it would be better if learners didn't copy these things. So if you enjoyed the podcast, it would be great if you could share it. There is an easily shareable post at the top of the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/EnglishWithKirsty. And if you want to comment or share anything with me, you can go to the show notes page, which is englishwithkirsty.com/podcast/episode 110. And also there you can sign up for the newsletter, and you can find the link to the Facebook page. So I hope that's helpful. Have a good week and have fun learning English. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.